is progress monitoring. And I'll go back here to some of these slides. But basically what we want to do is first, we have to make sure that your child has a measurable goal. Because if the goal isn't measurable, then it's going to be really hard for them to tell any progress that your child's made. And what I was also saying was, if you want to get the handout about progress monitoring and progress reports, to write progress in the comments, and I can get that sent to you. So let's go back here on track. What I was saying is, it's like super important that the goal be measurable and that the teachers actually measure and take data on what your child is doing. And then they need to record it, right? So it's not just something like from their memory, but they actually, plot it on a graph, write it down as anecdotal notes. Somehow they've got to be recording the progress and the data that they're taking. And then the third thing that teachers need to be doing is monitoring that. So they need to stop and reflect. It's like, is the child making progress? Because the next step is, if progress isn't really being made, they need to be able to say, maybe we need to go to plan B or plan C. If they pick an instructional strategy at the beginning of the year and it doesn't seem like your child is learning with that instructional strategy, that's a huge, should I do my red flag? That's a huge red flag. And the teacher should be then saying, I've got to change something here. And then after they've reflected on that, what we want them to do is make adjustments if necessary, and then write that progress report and write it so it's meaningful and it gives you information versus just being, some kind of checklist or some kind of numbers or letters that says that your child is making progress. So I'm glad we have sound. Next, we're going to look at how is your child's progress currently being measured. Now, you might not remember off the top of your head, so maybe tonight you could go back and look at your child's IEP, because sometimes what I see in IEPs is just, like I said, kind of generic kinds of things. So if you could type in the comments how your child's progress on goals is being monitored. Do they actually take data? Are they just using teacher observation? Are they just kind of in their gut thinking of how well your child has done the past month or so? So type in the comments how on your child's IEP they have it written, how they're going to evaluate that progress. And so Angie says, let me bring up her question. How do we get them to keep data? My son's IEP goals all state that they will be measured by teacher observation, but they're not keeping data. What's the best way to request it? Excellent question. And it's like at the opportune moment, Angie, because we're going to talk about that right now, because that's the thing. I mean, so many times I do see just teacher observation, and being a teacher, I feel like my observations are really valid and they do have credibility, but that's part of the picture. One of the ways, Angie, that you can have more accountability is have written in each IEP goal that there's also going to be a weekly log kept by the teacher. Because what you want to make sure is happening is that that observation is really being done on a regular, ongoing basis, and that they're really writing comments down. When I was teaching, one of the easy ways for me to do it was I would have a clipboard and I would have like a sheet of, those address labels, kind of peel off stickers. And I could, during reading group, I could jot down something for each student on one of those labels. When reading group was done, I could peel off the label and stick it on the child's folder. When I was walking around the class helping kids with math, I could again jot down notes on that sticker label. And at the end of math, I could pull those off and put them on the child's folder. So, I mean, one of the things I think is to talk to teachers and verify or kind of honor that their job is really busy, and it's like you understand. And so you could say, one tip I heard from another teacher was to use these labels, and use that as a suggestion. But I think if you amend the IEP and say, I feel like teacher observation is valuable, let's put in there that there's a weekly log of those evaluations. And then the other thing that you can do is ask for a copy of the weekly logs, or, you might do it by the month, but somehow you want to say in the IEP, so people are accountable, that you'll get a copy of the report. So, sometimes they're like, what? I can't do that. But it's like, no, if you're taking the data or writing notes about observation, they could do something quick, with their phone and send you a text message, and you could see the picture of their weekly log. So unless you hold them accountable, you're probably not going to see any of that. So see if that makes sense, Angie, or if you have a follow-up. And Kimberly is saying they measured every week is what it states, and they report it 4 times a year to a parent. Yeah, and a little bit further into the show, we're going to talk about increasing the frequency of getting your progress report. So they're not just 4 times a year, because that can be a long time to wait 9 weeks before you really figure out if things are working or not. And Kimberly said, we just had quarterly parent-teacher conferences, and it seemed all the progress was determined the week prior to our conference, and half of that progress was recorded and tested by the para. Is that allowed for the para to do the progress monitoring? What's allowed and what's specific in the law, there's not, to my knowledge, and I'm not an attorney, but to my knowledge, there's nothing in IDEA or the regs that say who has to do the progress monitoring. However, it's pretty standard procedure that paras can only do something under the supervision of a certified teacher. So that would be one thing to check. And 2, it depends on how much you trust them, right? And it also depends on how, easy or more difficult it would be to do the progress monitoring. To me, if you're looking at, for instance, like how many sight words does your child know? I think that's a pretty easy thing that a para could do. However, you want it written in the goal how the child has to do that. So if it's written in the goal that the child has to, be shown, single sight word cards, for 5 seconds and has to respond within 10 seconds, then each time they're measuring progress, they need to do that 5 seconds and they need to do that 10-second wait time. And the para needs to know that, because if instead the para has a whole list of sight words and they tell the kid, just go down the list and read the words, well, that's not how it was written in the goal. So that's where I think it would be hard, and you'd have to make sure, 1, that the goal is measurable, and 2, that the para really has the training from a certified teacher to do the progress monitoring. And it is probably pretty common that teachers will wait right before report card time or right before giving a progress report to, say, oh, we got to figure out, how they're doing here. And they'll do some kind of quick assessment. And that's why in the IEP, under the goals, it should also say the frequency that the data is being collected. Now, all of a sudden, I went black. Oh, dear. I am not having good luck on this broadcast today. So let me reboot here. Hopefully you can still hear me. Kimberly says, love. I love what you're saying. And I don't know why I don't have, I don't have a camera. Okay, so I can see myself. Hopefully you can see me. So that's the big thing, is to, make sure that there's some kind of training going on. So in the supplemental aids and services section of the IEP, that's where teacher, para, therapist training can be. And so if they plan on using a para to do the progress monitoring, then another thing I would suggest is that you ask that the IEP be amended and that there be training provided for the para for the observation part. So hopefully that makes sense. Yes, Cynthia says she can hear and see me. Yes. Okay, good. So teacher observation can be one part. I don't think you want that all to be measured by teacher observation. And if they do that, make sure that they have a weekly log. You really want objective data collected on each IEP goal. Going to be a really crucial component to test and see if what they're doing is working. And when I look at objective data being collected, like I had said earlier, one of the big important things is to make sure that they not only take the data, but they also actually use the data to inform their decisions, right? A lot of times parents are kind of trained to ask the question, show me the data. And you go to the IEP meeting and they might pull out some, pretty colored line graphs that have all kinds of lines and arrows. And it's like, okay, they showed me the data, but is it really good data or is it more junk data? So when they are showing you the data, take a minute to ask them to explain it more so you really understand it. And this is where you just have to be comfortable saying, even after they explain it, if it doesn't make sense, you need to say, I'm sorry, but can you say that again? Or can you explain it in a different way? Can you give me some examples? Because you don't want to just kind of fluff over the data that they've collected. You, as a parent, your child needs to know what kind of progress they're making. And so that's really important. So, you might see lines like this where their aim line is in red, and that's where they want the child to be going. And then they have the different data points of where they've taken the data. And Angie, this kind of goes back to your question, I think, as far as, or maybe it was Kimberly that was talking about only having progress monitoring taken right before the report card or the progress report comes out, is you want for a lot of goals, I think you want either weekly or every other week some kind of data collected and plotted, because just having it right before they make the report doesn't really help you to see what that progression is and how fast they're making progress. It just gives you another point, but it doesn't really show you the growth. So that's what we really want to make sure that we see. And I'm going to check here and see if we have any questions. Now, one of the things that can be changed with progress monitoring reports is exactly what goes in the report. So how many of you get progress reports that will have like a letter P for progressing, or a number 3 that means the goal hasn't been worked on yet, which is kind of crazy, right? But so let me know in the comments, when you get progress reports, what kinds of things are actually written in the progress report. And I'm going to take a sip of water while you write that in. So many times as an advocate, when I review IEPs and progress reports, I do see hardly any information. I know we have a therapist, Casey, and she wasn't able to join us live, but she was talking about she spends time to make sure that, not only does she give data information, but she also writes a few sentences for a narrative to explain the progress that your child's made. And again, this can be something that you actually get written in the IEP. So if it's not there now, you can request a meeting to amend the IEP and get it to be more individualized and more specific for your child. So this is where you're typing in the comments what information you want to get. So one of the things that I look at is, what does the goal say, how we're going to measure it? So if the goal says we're going to use a percentage of accuracy, then in the progress report, I want to know what the percentage of accuracy is. So, if there's a goal that your, child, is, 80% accurate on their addition facts, and of course it'd be more in there that's not measurable. But if they say a percentage, correct, then when they give the progress report, I want to know. So we want, at the end of this IEP to be at 80% accuracy. Where are we now? How accurate? What's, and we have a baseline that we started at. So then that can help us. So if your child has a number in their goal that says, they'll learn, 57 more sight words, then when the progress report comes, I want to know what the number is of how many words did they learn this past time period. And the other thing with things like that is I also want to see which words they know and which words they missed. So they usually will have that kind of information, but they don't necessarily think of sharing it with parents. And so you can have an informal talk with the teacher and say, it really would help me because we work on this at home. If you could, when you're doing your data collection, if you can snap a picture of it, if you can text it to me, if you can email it to me, so I know which words they're missing at school, which words they're getting right, or, whatever the goal is about. Some goals are written with minutes as being the measurement. So how long a student is on task. Instead of getting a progress report that says P, that they're making progress on, attending to the task, ask that it be in minutes. So if the goal is for them to, independently work on something for 10 minutes, I want to know this past reporting time, how many minutes are they on task? So we can keep track of that throughout the year and not just come to May and go, yikes, we're like not close to being on track. So let me know if this is helpful. You can give us some love So yes, we got a thumbs up. So if this is good, give us a thumbs up, give us some hearts. And we have people saying this is excellent information. Again, if you want a copy of, I always do the show notes with key takeaways. Notice my keys. Key takeaways of today's show and a handout about progress reporting. Just type the word progress in the comments and my IEP bot will get you signed up for that. So make sure. Yeah, so Angie was saying what she gets is progress, goal not met, or no progress. And so, yeah, I mean, that tells you nothing, right? So I would really encourage you, Angie, to maybe sit down and have an informal conversation first with a special ed teacher, but then to make sure it's formalized, that it become an amendment to the IEP and that everybody gets a copy of the amendment. And just say, it's hard for me to be a partner. It's hard for me to know what I need to keep working on at home with my kid. So more information would be very appreciated and talk about easy ways that they could probably do that. So we're going to go to the frequency of progress reports. Because for some reason, most people have the idea that progress reports only come out when report cards come out. And that doesn't have to be the way it is. In the regulations in 2006, when the regulations came out for the reauthorized IDEA, it gave an example of progress reports sent home at the same time report cards are sent home. Well, that was just an example. And most districts have kind of used that as we only send progress reports home when everybody gets a report card. Sometimes people get report cards every 9 weeks, which still might not be frequent enough. Some districts are only giving report cards in January and then at the end of the year. And I mean, that is crazy because for sure that's too much time, right? So just like everything else in your IEP can be individualized, guess what? The frequency of your progress reports can be individualized. So if your child has a behavior goal, I don't want to wait 9 weeks to know if things are getting better or not, or, if the intervention strategies or the prevention strategies we've written are really being helpful. So I might say at an IEP meeting that it really helps if I can know every month the progress that he's making on this behavior goal. And then, like I said, everybody has different IEP forms, but under the measurable goal, there should be criteria for how they're measuring that, and there should be a frequency of how often they're measuring that. And you can write or have the team write in there that progress reports will be sent home every month. A lot of IEP forms will have a default, kind of already typed in there saying when report cards go home, but that can be individualized. Now, are you going to get pushback? Yes. Right? I mean, when we ask people to do something different than what they're used to doing, there's usually pushback. But you can explain to people why that's going to be helpful, not only for the teachers to keep track on if their strategies are working. It helps a student to know and feel proud about themselves when they're making progress. And it helps you as a parent keep track of how things are going. And if things aren't going well, if your child is making some progress, but not very much, sit down with the team and say, let's look, what can we change up here so we can see, greater gains each, reporting time. So yes, you can ask for your progress reports to be more frequent. Let me see. So I was just curious, like, how often do you get a progress report? I think somebody had already said earlier that they get them 4 times a year, which is pretty much every 9 weeks. But for some of the rest of you, how often do you typically get a progress report? The other thing that I've noticed is sometimes teachers like space out giving progress reports at all. Like as an advocate, when parents call and, want to hire me, I want to see, IEPs, but I also want to see progress reports. And it's can be surprising how many times parents will look back through their records and it's like, oh, well, I must not have gotten them. I don't see anything here. And then it's like, what? No reports. So again, it's really sad and frustrating, but sometimes we need to be the IEP police and, not do it in an aggressive way, but, just say, by the way, I think progress reports were supposed to come home at the end of the month. Haven't seen mine yet. So you can do it in a friendly manner, but you need to stay on top of it. One of the things that you can do is, when you get the, when you pull out your calendar on your phone or whatever, is you can go ahead and type in there, the end of each month, if that's when you're supposed to get your progress report, or if you're willing to wait 9 weeks, the end of 9 weeks, set, something in your calendar. So it's a reminder like, oh, I need to make sure I get that progress report. And that can be helpful too. So let's move along. Again, these are some of the graphics and some of the things from the handout. So just type progress in the comments if you want to get that. The other thing I want to start doing, and I wasn't showing you there, but let's go back here. So this is from the handouts where you'll learn about what progress monitoring is, the 10 steps that the teachers need to take, the benefits, and then the one that I really like are 10 questions that you can ask about progress monitoring and the progress reports. At the end of each video, I'm going to start doing advocacy action steps because it's like, well, this is great information, but then I also want people to do something with the information in order for it to be really beneficial. So if we look here for our action steps for today is 1, make sure that the IEP goals are measurable. And if you want that goal template that I showed at the beginning, let me know and I can give you that. You want to know how each goal is going to be measured. So is it going to be a percentage of accuracy? Is it going to be a number of minutes? Is it going to be a number of math facts that they know? You want that to be really specific. And then when you're looking at the IEP, the other thing that you can request in the progress report is that they include documentation for how they made that decision. So, even if we can't get them past making a P for progress, if we can get them to also send home a copy of their data collection, also send home a copy of their logs where they've written down their observations, then that will help us know what that P making progress really means. So one of the things that can be written in the IEP is that the documentation for making that judgment on how much progress your child has made is included in each of your progress reports. And I know this may sound like, what? Nobody's going to do that. But unless we ask, right, we're never going to get that. And as long as we accept kind of pitiful progress reports, that's what you're going to keep getting. So it's up to us as parents to push that change. And again, like I said, you can do that in a nice way. You don't have to be aggressive. You can talk to the special ed director and say, let's look at how our teachers in our district are using progress reports. How are they doing this? What information is being sent home? And maybe the special ed director would be like, wow, I didn't even know that that's, what they were doing. I had no idea that all you were getting were, a couple letters or a couple numbers. Or go to the building principal. Start with the teacher, but if you don't get a response there, go to the principal. If you don't get a response there, go to the special ed director. You have to advocate for changes in how progress monitoring and progress reports are done, or it probably won't happen, right? I mean, we know as parents that we're the ones that really have the ability to create change in our districts. So the other thing is to request more frequent progress reports, and we just talked about that. And you want to make sure that that's written in the IEP so they're accountable for it. So the fifth action step is, if you make any changes with frequency with what's going to be in the progress report, all of that needs to, we know, be amended in the IEP, right? So Cynthia said request for goal template, and thanks. Yeah, and Alyssa's here with us, and she says great ideas. So, and I'll go back just real quickly to show you what that template was, because that might have been the time I had no sound. And I want to see. So this is what the measurable goal template looks like. And Cynthia, yeah, for sure, I'll put that in the comments afterwards. And I don't know, to me, it's a handy template that I use when I'm reviewing IEPs and seeing if they're really measurable or not. So Kimberly said, I'm sorry if you addressed me. She said that she had to step away, but she'll catch up. Yeah, so that's fine. And Cynthia says, thanks for the great and useful information. Yeah, so I hope you also type in progress in the comments, because what I do is I write up the key takeaways from today's show, some quotes, some additional, I'll put in additional resources. I'll also put in the handout. So all of that I kind of develop in the next few days. And then my deadline is Tuesday morning. I get that out to everybody. So you can look for that. And Kimberly says, yes, that she would like the template too. So yeah, I'll make that into a PDF with a link, and I can put the link in there for you guys to get it. So I love that you're here. I love when people are asking questions and making comments, and it's more interactive, and we can really, more or less individualize it to some of the things that you've been wondering about. Next Thursday, we will be back here at noon Mountain Time. In the meantime, I'm always on my Facebook page at least once a day. So if you have other questions that come up, or you're watching the replay, feel free to write those questions in, and we will be in touch. So until next Thursday, have a great day. Enjoy your weekend, and we shall see you next week. Bye-bye.